Dreaming of the ultimate music festival experience?
Aren't those your parents?
Nope. Never seen him.
Enter Missouri Lottery's summer playlist promotion, and you could win one of 5 amazing VIP festival packages across the country. Plus, every ticket played helps fund Missouri schools.
Would you come with me, please?
Don't judge me, Carol.
Play it forward with the Missouri Lottery.
It's a story we've been looking into since last October. A small family cemetery in Cole County seems to have just vanished.
The Dixon Cemetery is named after one of the original families in Jefferson City, and it now appears a roundabout sits right on top of it.
In a special report, ABC 17's Daniel Winn has literally been digging for answers to find out where this forgotten cemetery has gone. And Daniel, tonight you think there's a real possibility people are driving over it every day.
Well, I believe it's highly likely. We hired a ground-penetrating radar company. I talked to county engineers and sifted through county records to prove there was a small cemetery from the 1800s. Most shocking, though, I found it is in nearly the exact location of a roundabout. And while there aren't any living relatives who we could find, there are still a few people out there who believe in doing the right thing on behalf of these settlers who were the first to call Cole County home.
It's very likely right now we could be standing on top of graves.
We could.
Lloyd Klosterman's family has lived in Jefferson City for generations, but that isn't nearly as long as the family he's standing up for. Klosterman used to own this property just west of Jefferson City, the area rich in history. Klosterman tells me it was once a part of a 2,000-acre farm owned by the Dixon family more than 150 years ago.
They settled here and they had a tobacco farm and they had a lot of slaves.
That was the early 1800s. He tells me the slaves cleared the trees from one tree line to the other. Many of them are buried just north of the roundabout. Today, the farm is now Pioneer Trail Elementary and home to a subdivision. But many in this subdivision tell me the history of the place they now call home has been desecrated. Desecrated by the man who built many of their very own homes. It's because he also built this roundabout where the Dixon family buried their loved ones who no longer have a voice.
The builder of the roundabout was Central Missouri Construction Company, which was owned by my son, Richard.
Klosterman tells me his son knew the cemetery was there. He's talked to his son's former employees who say the headstones were removed and kept in a nearby barn and then buried beneath the roundabout.
All I know is he pointed out to me that when he took the stones from that old barn, which was right over in here, he buried them in there.
In the middle of the roundabout.
Somewhere in that roundabout.
So the founding fathers of Jefferson City, some of them buried right below us.
Right. And it was a hard thing to imagine that the cemetery was actually destroyed. Now we don't know for sure where it was at, but the county has a recording of the cemetery area.
So with that information, I went to the county courthouse to sift through records. I found the Dixon burial ground in a book of cemeteries, but it wasn't listed on any old land plat maps. The new plat maps were signed by Richard Klosterman, and the cemetery was nowhere to be found. However, I did find the county has aerial images from the past 15 years. Take a look at this progression from the early 2000s. You can see for yourself an old tree in the middle with a fence around it. You can watch as the fence disappears, and eventually the tree is gone as well, and then you see the present-day roundabout. ABC 17 brought in a ground-penetrating radar company from the St. Louis area to scan for buried headstones. We had 3 different hits with the radar, but nothing we pulled out was actually a headstone. We did, however, scan something that was approximately 6 feet long and 3 feet wide. Could it be those 7 headstones we've been looking for?
Found something really big, but you do think it's a utility, probably.
I do. Upon first investigation, I saw a dense cluster that did not fit a utility pattern. But then, as the scan moved further this way, there were other utility anomalies that led right to that previous cluster, which makes me think it's a utility.
But that answer wasn't good enough, so I took our findings to county engineers who disagree and tell me they don't have any utilities in that location on the roundabout.
So would there be a reason to have a utility or anything
a 6-foot by 3-foot box right here?
No, there wouldn't be any reason. If there was like a junction box or something, there would be an access to that, so it'd be at ground level or above, whether it's you know, like an electric box, a transformer or something like that, or a head or something on a telephone line or something. There'd be something there visible that you could see where a change in direction was, and so there wouldn't be anything underneath here.
I also asked Landwehr about the possibility of bodies still being here under the roundabout. He tells me the ground was actually built up during construction, and Central Missouri Construction, the now defunct company of Richard Klosterman, had no reason to dig. Lloyd Klosterman agrees.
I don't think any of the bodies were disturbed. And the reason I say that was the highest point in that area. And when they built the road, there was very little dirt removed.
So the questions remain. Where did these headstones go? And are they buried under the roundabout? And even more importantly, are there still bodies buried there too? Only a few people know the real answers, and I did try to call the former Central Missouri Construction employees several times, and I also reached out to Richard Klosterman, but my calls were never returned.
An investigation has been turned over to the Cole County Prosecutor's Office. Destroying or disturbing a cemetery is a Class E felony.